Hey guys, hope you're all doing well. I'm Lucas, and today we're stepping into another set of intense Reddit stories. Real emotions, real consequences. If you enjoy stories that hit deep, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Let's get into it.
I found out my wife wanted someone else on a Tuesday I almost forgot to eat. The first message said, "I can't wait for our nights." And the name at the top was Tim from work, a decade younger, a smile I'd only ever seen on her phone background when the unit took a group selfie. 15 years, a mortgage that finally breathed easier, a grave in Jefferson Barracks where my father lays under clean military sod, a child who survived a winter of fevers because we took turns pacing the hallway. Every weight we'd lifted together, and here I was holding a phone and realizing we had let go of each other without saying it out loud. I hadn't been snooping. Her battery ran red and she hates when the alarm nags her, so I set her phone on the charger by the mixer. The bubble bloomed from the lock screen. The words hit like a cold pack you press to a bruise you didn't know was there. I didn't open it. Not then. I put both hands on the counter the way you hold the world still when a tremor runs through the floor. My name is Michael. I'm 44 and I design things that don't fall down. Bridges mostly, or the parts of buildings that letting people stand together without fear. 2 years ago, I had a surgery that saved me from a roller coaster of pain and took away the easy current that used to run through me at night. The hunger came back slow, like color after a migraine. In between, there were months where I slept like a guest in my own body. Jenna knew. We didn't joke about it because jokes need air, and we were always short on air. She came home from a double at Mercy South with the smell of antiseptic in her hair and a ring of fatigue under her eyes. She kissed my cheek, grabbed a glass, filled it, drank 3 pulls like the water was proof. When she reached for her phone, I didn't hand it over yet. I said softly, "We need to talk." She flinched and then did something I will never forget. She exhaled like someone cracking a stuck window. Not panic, relief. She set the glass down. "I knew you'd find out," she said, voice level, "and you know what? It's better this way." At first I thought I'd misheard. The kitchen clock ticked like a judge tapping a pen. "Better?" "You made me invisible, Michael," she said. "I was shouting and you were quiet. I am alive. I wanted to feel like someone looked and wanted." The words were a lit match in a room full of fumes I hadn't noticed. I pulled a chair out and sat before my knees, reminded me I stand for a living. I was not brave or clever. I was an old bridge trying to remember the load it was rated for. "We went through a lot," I said, more to the room than to her. "We didn't break." He touched the counter with 2 fingers the way she checks a patient's pulse. "We didn't break. We froze." I didn't raise my voice. The neighbors didn't hear. I asked if she loved him. She said no and yes in the same breath, then looked away like a person who knows the right answer and can't say it in time. "He pays attention," she whispered. "He looks at me like I'm in the room." "I am in the room," I said, and the second I heard it, I knew that wasn't the point. The first night ended without a scene. There were no plates thrown, no suitcase flung. She took a shower. I heard the water hit tile in the rhythm I know by heart. I sat in my chair in the living room and thought about winter nights when our son coughed so hard his ribs ached, how we slept in shifts and celebrated normal temperatures like birthdays. I thought about my father in hospice with my hand under his palm the last time it was warm. I thought about the day we signed the mortgage and the pen shook in her fingers because interest rates were a cliff back then. The ledger of us was long and heavy, but it did not answer the phone. When the house got quiet, I picked up her cell and opened the thread. Tech is a cruel witness because it remembers what our minds would prefer to smudge. It was all there. The call-outs, the late breaks, the "I'll swing by the supply closet if you need me to grab anything," and I know what you're thinking. But the words themselves were ordinary until they weren't. The younger man's jokes, the night shift winks, the picture of a coffee cup with the caption "Nurse Fuel" and her reply, "Wish it was you." And then the line that had flashed my heart into a small box, "Can't wait for our nights." Not nights. Evidence sits 2 ways in your chest. One is factual. The other is the rhythm of a person you love beginning to dance to a song you didn't hear start. I scrolled and saw Friday when she told me she was precepting a new hire, and instead there was a photo of a hotel hallway in downtown St. Louis, industrial carpet pattern that looks like river water, the little mirror that turns you into a stranger when you pass. The timestamp was an hour before I texted "Need anything" from Schnucks, and she wrote back, "No, just you," with a heart and a bandage emoji that now felt like a joke the world had played on me. I didn't sleep. I stared at the popcorn ceiling and counted constellations they never meant to make. In the morning, I called in late and told my senior I'd be out after lunch. "You never take days," he said, like it was a compliment and not the indictment it was. I went for a run and lasted 6 blocks before my breath saw what my brain had done and sat down. At noon, I drove to the hospital and sat in the car where you can watch families rehearse gratitude in the valet lane. I texted Jenna, "Come out when you can," she wrote back, 2 minutes. She came out in scrubs and a jacket with the unit name stitched in blue. She slid into the passenger seat without asking why. "I don't want to fight at work," she said. "I don't want to fight," I said. "I want to know how long I've been a ghost." She looked at the dashboard. "Since Denver," she said quietly, and before that in my head. The city I'd chosen for our first post-pandemic trip because it had cheap flights and good beer, and the Rockies like a wall you can lean your eyes against. A nursing conference at the convention center near the big blue bear looking into the windows. I'd stayed home because our boy had a band concert. She sent me photos of her feet on hotel carpet, her lanyard, a soup. I did not notice what was not in the frame. Who? I asked, because you ask even when the answer will not do you any good. I don't want to tell you his name, she said. It was a hot night and then it was nothing. I came home and you didn't notice I had the same dress on both flights. I tried to fit the detail into a place where it would matter less. It didn't fit. Was Tim in Denver? No, she said. But it made me remember a feeling. She folded her hands. The wedding band sat between two nurses' calluses. I am not saying it's your fault. Good, I said, too fast. I'm saying the loneliness was shared, and I did the wrong thing with it. Wrong thing is a tiny box for a bomb, but what would the right size box even be? The car smelled like stale french fries and the hand sanitizer they give out at health fairs. People walked by, one woman laughing into her phone like the world was not on fire. I had a surgery, I said, like she hadn't lived in the same house when I picked at stitches in the dark. I didn't choose my hormones. I know, she said. I don't blame you for not wanting me. I blame me for not wanting to live like I wasn't wanted. We stared at the windshield. A helicopter dragged a shadow across the parking garage and set it down somewhere else. She said, if we keep pretending this is a marriage, we will rot. I drove her back to the entrance and she squeezed my hand like a mother does at a locker room door. I never meant to hurt you, she said. I didn't repeat the obvious line about intent. You cannot staple it to outcomes. I called my sister Rachel, a paramedic in Kansas City who has seen every shape of night. She swore and then breathed. Do not make a movie of it, she said. Make a list. Lawyer if you need it, doctor if you need it, friend if you need it. Do not text the kid, do not post. I haven't posted since the Blues won it all, I said. Good, she said. Don't start now. That afternoon, I checked our shared calendar against her shift schedule on the kitchen corkboard and saw that reality had been strained until it let lies through. A card receipt for a rooftop bar near Ballpark Village when she was supposed to be on nights. A lift charge at 2 in the morning to an address on Chouteau where the lofts used to be factories. This is the part people call detective work. It's not. It's the part where your brain finally turns on all the lights. When she got home, we didn't pretend dinner. We sat at the table where our son used to draw dinosaurs with too many teeth. I told her I'd be sleeping at a friend's place that night. She cried with her hands in her lap. I don't want to be the villain, she said. You get to want many things, I said softly. Some of them you don't get to have. Is there any way we try, she said. Counseling? Time? I didn't know. I didn't ever want to become the man who decides a second chances policy on a Tuesday under a dull kitchen light. I can't answer that and be honest at the same time, I said. I need distance so I don't say something I can't use later. She nodded like a nurse charting a vital sign. I'll sleep in the guest room, she said. You can have the bed. I don't want the bed, I said. I want the man I used to be there. The first escalation came 2 days later when the hospital called Jenna into a meeting. HR had received a complaint. It wasn't me. I was too busy learning how to breathe like a person who didn't share a title to a house. Someone had noticed parking lot conversations. Someone had thought about favoritism. Someone with a clipboard had written the word boundaries where you can't erase it. Jenna told me on the phone from her car in a voice that sounded like she was taking a pulse again. It's not formal, she said. They separated us on the schedule. I didn't call them, I said. I know, she said. You're not a bomb thrower. I almost laughed. I'm an engineer. Yeah, she said. You build things. I burned one. I took a room over my friend Walt's garage for a week. Walt is a quiet man who sharpens his own mower blades and thinks small talk should be shorter. He gave me a key and left a 6-pack in the mini fridge and said, text if you need anything, which is another way of saying he would sit next to me in the dark if I asked. I ran in the morning and stood on the Grand Avenue Bridge to watch boxcars slide east like patience. I thought about our son, now a high school junior with a tenor sax and a heartbreaking jawline, and thanked whatever luck existed that he was at his mother's for this week already for the custody we planned without naming it. The second escalation came the night Jenna told me the Denver piece without the careful language she'd tried in the car. It wasn't an accident, she said. I wanted to see if I could want, and I could. I didn't throw the phone. I didn't scream. I stared at the ceiling of Walt's spare room until I made friends with an old water stain that looked like Florida. Then I said the sentence that turned my life in a direction I could walk. I can't live inside this, I said. I need out. We had the third dialogue peak in our driveway while a storm decided whether to be threat or theater. She stood with a box I'd packed of her father's photos because I didn't want to put my hands on them anymore. I keep wanting you to save me, she said. It's a stupid thing to want from the person I set on fire. You want me to be who I was, I said. The steady you stopped seeing. It's not your fault you're steady, she said. It's my fault I needed chaos to feel alive. Then go be alive, I said, not unkind, just not with me. The point of no return wasn't dramatic. It was a city quiet morning with a pale band of sun trying to convince November to be kind. I packed the things that were mine because even in a life to be split, some objects are named after your hands. My drafting pencils. The watch my father gave me when I turned 30 and he still remembered to mail cards unprompted. A flannel with a hole in the cuff that only I knew how to fold around a wrist. The house had the smell of our son's cereal and the lemon spray she overuses on the counters. I set my key on the table and for a moment I saw every dinner we ate there at once, all stacked up like plates. Jenna watched from the hallway. "If you walk out, I'll let you," she said. No threat, no plea, just a line said like she was telling a patient how a pill will feel. "I'm not a warden," I said. "We both did time. I didn't know there were bars. I picked up my bag. I hope you find a way to live without swallowing people." "I hope you find a way to want without leaving your body," she said, a nurse's kindness that isn't meant to be mercy so much as clarity. I moved into a one-bedroom in Solard over a shop that sells records and smells like dust and teenage intention. The landlord is an old guy who calls me kid and refuses to text. I put the mattress on the floor and hung nothing. I ran by the river because sometimes moving forward is the only proof you're not stoned. I saw a therapist at a storefront office with a plant that refused to die. I told her about surgery and silence and the text that read nights like a verdict. She said grief is a place, not a sentence, and it was a line I could hold on my tongue when the room spun. The hospital shuffled schedules until Jenna stopped seeing Tim except in hallways where the lights make everyone look like a photograph of a photograph. I didn't ask if they kept talking because it was no longer my job to know. Our son asked me if we were splitting up, and I told him the truth in a shape his effort could carry. He cried and then got mad and then asked what he'd do on his birthday. We made a plan. Plans are strange mercy. You want a moment of justice. It doesn't come with handcuffs and a speech. It comes with the small, ordinary truth that the woman who told me she had been invisible was suddenly very visible to herself in a way that hurt. The people at work looked differently at her. Not mean, just with a new fact in their eyes. The young man transferred to another unit and learned that 20-something bravery is a poor coat in January. Jenna moved into a townhouse with big windows and a wide couch you can fall asleep on during true crime shows. I didn't furnish her loneliness with my guesses. Months passed like a slow truck on a one-lane bridge. I ate better. I slept without a cocktail of screens. I designed a pedestrian span for a county with money they wanted to spend before they lost it. I went to the gym and remembered what my legs could do when my head asked nicely. I started to want again in a way that wasn't only hunger, but the idea that skin is a place you can live without apologizing to it. I did not rush out to prove it. I let it arrive like weather. One Sunday in May, I stood at my father's grave with a flag and a quiet I had learned to wear. I told him I had tried to be a good man, and sometimes that is not the same as being a happy one. Then I went to my son's concert and clapped like brass makes the air better. Jenna texted the night before the divorce finalized and asked if I wanted to meet for coffee. I said yes because the world is not a line, it's a field. We sat in a cafe near Tower Grove where they put flowers on tables for no reason. She looked lighter and older and both were true. "I'm sorry," she said, no modifiers. "I hate that I didn't bring you my need." I handed it to a boy and called it a solution. "I'm sorry too," I said. "I hate that I retreated into silence and called it stoicism. If I could do it different, I'd invite you into the part of my head where words go to hide." She smiled like a person who knows how to start an IV in a moving ambulance. "You always were poetic when it didn't help," she said, and we both laughed because of course that part of me still existed. We signed papers 2 days later. The clerk spoke in a tone you use for weather or line dancing. We walked out and hugged and did not promise things we couldn't keep. She left in a small car with a dent in the rear bumper that I used to mean to fix. I walked to mine and drove to the river, parked, and sat on the hood like a teenager. I thought about Cage and Key and the way we wore each other down into shapes that no longer fit. I was angry and grateful and tired and knew I was out. The last scene I will give you is nothing much. I was at the Saturday market buying tomatoes that hadn't forgotten the sun, and there was a woman sampling honey who asked me if I liked it bitter or sweet. "Both," I said with a little laugh I didn't mean to make. "Turns out you can want both." She poured a little on the wooden stick and handed it to me. "Good answer," she said. I tasted it, and for a second my body remembered a life with nobody else's name in my mouth. I paid for a jar, I walked home, I set it on the counter in a kitchen that had only my fingerprints, and I made toast that tasted like a promise you keep to yourself. 2 questions for you. Where do you draw the line between care and self-erasure when somebody you love changes shape? And how do you say it out loud before the silence writes the story for you? If you found the message I found, would you confront, collect proof, or walk first? And why? If this story spoke to you, share your take in the comments and subscribe for more.